Dutch tiles, ceramic tiles, that have stories from the Bible on them. They're also from Delft. And they were evidently, so within the Sultan's palace, you have tiles with the crucifixion and the Jesus walking on water and all of these stories from the Bible that were evidently donated or bought from Dutch merchants and then used to decorate the walls.
Any kind of ceramics like that, not just in Java, that seem to have been valuable heirloom commodities for centuries and centuries and centuries. Like all the Celadon stuff that you can get in Kalimantan and Lombok. That in Vietnamese ceramics, high quality ceramics have been traded in here for very, very long.
Another text, this is Jatabantan, which talks about the history of Bantan, but it has one of the most interesting conversion stories of all, because it's about non-conversion. This is about an Arab teacher called Maulana Salam, who comes to the very eastern tip of Java, to the area now by Nurungi. And there he marries the daughter of the local lord, and the local lord is sick, right? So Maulana Salam gives him some betel nut to chew, it cures him, so the king gives his daughter to Maulana Salam, his wife. Maulana Salam then says, we got all the elements now, right? The magic, the foreign teacher. So the foreign teacher, Maulana Salam, says to the king, okay, now convert to Islam. The king says, no. He just refuses to convert. So Maulana Salam is driven away, and when the child is born, there's another motif which is shared in several religions. The child is put into a chest, thrown into the sea, drifts down along the coast, is fished out of the waters of the Moses story, fished out of the water in Resik, and he becomes the first Sunangiri, who is the first grade of Shevja. Well, where does all that take us? Well, now we're beginning to see that before we had something of the timing of Islam. These legends are not history. They're later memorials, later memories of it, but they do emphasize the foreign origin of most early teachers. They emphasize magical events. They emphasize the conversion of societies always begin from the elite downward. Another myth that you will encounter, both in Tommy Pirish and here, we see the elite converting first and then people converting after them. Another myth you will encounter in some accounts is the idea that Islam grew from below. But it didn't. It grew, as far as we can see, from the top of society, bringing the rest of them with them. So the masses convert afterwards. And there is there tends to be this difference that in the Javanese case, there is less sense of a dramatic transition. Like one of the best stories is about Sunan Kalijogo, his grave I showed you a moment ago. In the case of his story, the story starts with him being named Said. Radin Said. Now, Said is an Arabic term, so it sort of suggests that he's already Muslim, but it's unclear. And he's leading a dissolute life. He's gambling and drinking and womanizing and so on. And he operates as a thief, as a highway robber on the north coast. So he decides one day somebody comes walking along, it's Sunan Bona, so he becomes another of the robbers. And Sunan Kalijogo decides he's going to rob him, so he says, your money or your life. And suddenly Sunan Bona turns into 4 people. Now, if you're drunk, the person in front of you stands and turns into 4 people, you might decide to change your life. Okay? So Sunan Kalijogo decides to change his life. He thinks it's a really problem. Bona, meanwhile, says, okay, you could rob somebody, but it's somebody who's going to come along in 4 days. But then this Bona himself, he comes along, the conversion is completed, all this kind of stuff, and now you have another Wali who has this background of having changed it. After Sunan Bona turned into 4 people. So, was he a Muslim before? Now, we're trying to give some content to this bare bones of these graves. Bare bones of graves? Yeah, that's quite I think that's quite perfect. And we've got a little bit of information from 2 very important early Javanese manuscripts from the 16th century. We know they're from the 16th century because they came back brought back by the first Dutch expedition to Java. So that sailed back in the 1590s, so the manuscripts are from the 16th century. They're both mystical texts, they're Sufi. The teachings in them are quite orthodox. The language is Javanese, we find a lot of odd usages of Malay words in the Javanese. Again, suggesting maybe Malay teachers bringing Islam to Java. So the contents are mystical. There are a lot of local terms used in them. For example, the term for prayer is not salat or doa, it's sambayang, the Javanese term. The term for asceticism is topo, again, the Javanese term. The term for God is often pangeran, not a lot, but pangeran, the Javanese term. So we find a lot of Javanese terms in there. But an orthodox emphasis on the unity of God. The Creator, the eternal, the eternal, beyond creation. So it's important to note that this is Orthodox teaching.